My name is Charlotte Voss. I'm 34, and I've spent my entire life being the quiet mistake in a family that valued control, appearances, and inheritance over people. I grew up in the shadow of stronger voices, siblings who fit, relatives who mattered, while I learned early how to stay invisible, how to survive by not being chosen. When my mother died, they expected me to grieve politely, sign what I was told, and disappear again. But standing apart from them all my life taught me something they never noticed. I pay attention. I always have. And when I went back to my mother's mountain villa to close the door on her life and mine, I realized grief wasn't the most dangerous thing waiting for me there. Because my mother didn't just leave behind a house. She left behind cameras, secrets, and proof that someone was still living in her home. And the moment I pressed play, I understood why she'd never wanted me to come back alone. The tires crunched wet gravel as I pulled into the driveway. Dusk pressed hard against the windshield. Trees swayed like silhouettes holding their breath. The rain hadn't started yet, but the smell of it was already in the air. Earth, pine, and something sharp underneath. Gasoline? The gate creaked shut behind me. The villa loomed in silence. I expected it to look empty, abandoned even. My mother had been dead 3 months. The funeral was sterile. Closed casket. Quick. She wouldn't have wanted a fuss, they told me. But she always wanted a fuss. She just never got one. So why was the porch light on? I parked. Engine off. Everything inside me screamed wait, but I didn't. I opened the door, stepped into damp silence. Then I saw the roses. My mother's roses. Deadly beautiful things, temperamental and expensive. They were in full bloom. In October. The soil was dark, freshly watered. The trellis trimmed. That garden should have died with her. I stepped onto the porch. The welcome mat was clean. New even. Someone had replaced it. The key was still hidden behind the third brick on the right, like it always had been, but the lock turned too smoothly. Oiled. I pushed the door open. Lavender. The air hit me like memory. Sharp, nostalgic, false. That was her brand, French lavender, boutique only, $40 a bottle. She kept it everywhere. I hadn't smelled it since the day she died, but the scent wasn't old. It was active. The living room was spotless, not just tidy, staged, like someone had set it for a magazine shoot. The leather couch gleamed. The curtains were open. The fireplace was clean. Clean when it hadn't been used in years. The lights blinked. That's when I noticed the hallway sensor, the one she had installed for safety, track my movement. It lit up, bright white. I froze. I whispered to myself, "No one's here." The fridge hummed. I walked into the kitchen and opened it. Full. Fresh produce. Eggs. A bottle of oat milk that expired next week. My name wasn't on any of this. Neither was hers. I checked the cabinets. Clean dishes. 2 used wine glasses in the sink. 1 fork. 1 knife. Someone had made a meal. Recently. I backed away slowly, hand brushing the granite counter. Then I remembered the shelf. When I was 13, my mother showed me the trick only once. "Emergency only," she said. "If you're ever scared, come in here. Stay quiet. Watch everything." She called it the foxhole. I stepped into her office. Everything was untouched on the surface. Books, pens, the smell of old wood and ink. I moved to the tall bookshelf, 3rd panel. Ran my hand along the bottom edge. Click. The shelf cracked open. The hidden room was tight. Cold. A bank of dusty monitors lined the desk. A single bulb flickered overhead. The equipment buzzed as I hit the power. One by one, the screens lit up. Hallway. Kitchen. Living room. Bedroom. Live feeds. But no one was there now. I pulled up the saved footage. Scrolled back to this morning. 9:16 a.m. The kitchen light blinked on. A figure entered. Hooded. Broad-shouldered. Moved like he'd done this 100 times. He grabbed a glass, poured wine, my mother's vintage, sat at the counter, turned on music. Beethoven. The camera above the stove caught his face when he looked up. Elliot, my sister's husband, the man who told me at the funeral, will always keep the villa in the family. For Macy. I leaned closer, my breath shallow. He picked up a phone, dialed, then said, "She'll be back soon. I want it clean by the time she gets here." Who was he talking about? He stood, walked out of frame. Then another voice, faint, filtered in through the hallway camera. A woman's voice. Not my sister's, not my mother's. Liana, my mother's best friend. The one who held my hand at the funeral. The one who whispered, "You're not alone." They were here, together, in this house. And the way Elliot looked at the camera when he left the kitchen, he knew it was watching. Those aren't my mother's groceries, and that's not her silhouette by the stove. I didn't sleep. I stayed in the security room long after the feeds went dark, fingers hovering above the keyboard, replaying Elliot's face, that smirk, the casual way he lifted the wine glass, the way he said she'll be back soon. She who? The sun hadn't risen yet when I stepped outside. Cold mountain air hit like ice water. My hand trembled as I locked the front door. I glanced back at the villa once before starting the car. The porch light flickered twice and shut off. Not motion, not timer. Signal. Cut scene. Downtown was 30 minutes of silence and fog. I didn't turn the radio on. I drove with my jaw clenched and a list building in my head. Who the hell is living in my dead mother's house? Why is my name gone from the estate documents? What did she know before she died? The law office of Nolan and Bryce sat like a cathedral above the main square. Old money, older secrets. I stepped inside and immediately felt it. Polished coldness, glass doors that clicked too loudly, smiles that didn't reach eyes. Reception was empty, just a bell and a nameplate. I rang once. Footsteps. A woman emerged, mid-40s, tight bun, gray suit. She stopped when she saw me. "You're Charlotte Voss." Not a question. "I need to speak with whoever handled my mother's estate." "You'll need an appointment." "Not if I'm on the paperwork." Her eyes flicked. A twitch. Microsecond. Then she turned. "Wait here." Clicking heels down a corridor. A whisper. A door shutting too fast. 2 minutes later, she returned with a man in a navy pinstripe suit and a politician's smile. "Ms. Voss," he said smoothly. "I'm Gerald Bryce. I handled your mother's final arrangements. I have questions." "Of course. Though, legally, I may not be able to disclose everything." I smiled. "We'll see about that." We sat in a glass-walled office. He opened a file, my mother's file, and pushed it toward me. "This is the executed will. Filed 4 days before your mother's passing." "Executed where?" "Here, in this office." I scanned the signature. Macy Voss. And next to it, mine. But I never signed this. The handwriting looked close. Too close. Like someone copied a version of my signature off a birthday card. Who witnessed this? Your brother-in-law, Elliot Greer. Of course. I flipped to the next page. The villa transferred. Not to me. Not even to my sister's side. To a foundation. The Torres Family Foundation. Liana's name inked in bold letters. I looked up. My mother would never leave the house to Liana. She said she wanted it preserved. For community work. She hated community work. He blinked. I stood. "You'll be hearing from my attorney." "I was told you didn't have one." I froze. Told? By who? Outside, my breath came faster. My mother used to say, "You can't see the knife if you're always pretending it's a handshake." Cut scene. I got back to the villa. The door was open. Not broken. Unlocked. Inside, everything looked the same. But I felt it. Something had shifted. I ran to the office. The hidden room. Monitors still on. I rolled the footage back. Timestamp 2 hours ago. 7:12 a.m. Elliot entered. He was alone. He walked into the bedroom, opened a drawer, pulled out a small black bag, checked it, smiled. Then, he walked over to the fireplace, reached behind the left sconce, pulled something out. A USB. I watched him plug it into a small tablet. He scanned files, deleted 2, then dropped the USB into his coat pocket and left. Cut to black. I bolted to the bedroom. The drawer was empty. The sconce had dust smudged along the edge. Whatever he took, my mother had hidden it there for a reason. I returned to the desk, pulled up archived camera footage from the night before her death. 3:43 a.m. Macy Voss sat in that very chair, pale, hair down. Her hands shook as she opened the laptop. She was speaking to someone, not on a call, to the camera itself. "If anything happens to me," she said, "don't trust the paperwork. Don't trust them. They'll say I was sick. I wasn't. They'll say," Charlotte agreed. She didn't. She looked straight into the lens. "Trust the roses. I buried the truth beneath them." The feed cut. I stood frozen. Wind held against the shutters. I'd always thought grief was heavy. But truth? Truth was louder. My name was never meant to disappear. Someone made sure it would. The shovel hit something hard. Not rock. Wood. I froze. My palms burned. The metal handle had blistered them raw. I was ankle deep in the soil under the rose trellis, right where my mother said to look. Trust the roses. It was always some cryptic metaphor. Until now. I crouched, dug with my hands. Cold dirt packed under my nails. My breath fogged the air. Then I saw it. A black tin box, no larger than a lunch pail. Scratches along the edge. Taped shut. I pried it open. Inside, a folder. Flash drive. A sealed envelope marked Charlotte in my mother's cursive. I looked up. Wind shook the treetops. My breath shortened. Every noise felt targeted, intentional. The sound of someone waiting. I grabbed the box and ran inside. Cut scene. The letter was short. 3 lines. "If you're reading this, then I lost. But I made sure you'd still have a choice. I didn't tell you everything. I was trying to keep you clean. Don't trust Elliot. Don't trust Liana. If you find the video, you'll understand." No signature. Just a smudge of lavender oil on the bottom corner. I booted up my laptop and slid in the flash drive. Folders opened. Bank docs. Will original. TRR meeting. Home video fragments. Pictures v. Paper trail. I opened TRR meeting first. A grainy video popped up, surveillance footage. Dated 2 weeks before her death. Liana, Elliot, and a man I didn't recognize. Tall, but business suit. No expression. No name tag. He sat across from my mother like he owned the air in the room. She looked cornered. "I'm not signing that," Macy said. "You already did," the man replied. Elliot slid a paper across the table. "You just need to verify." I said, "I'm not signing." The man leaned in. "Then your daughter loses everything." I paused the video. Bile rose in my throat. There it was. The moment it all shifted. My mother saying no. Elliot making it yes. I clicked through another folder. Home video fragments. Family clips. Some staged. Some raw. Then one labeled recovered. 2:14 a.m. The footage jumped to life. My mother again. Same night as the previous video. She was crying but not afraid. "Control is an illusion," she said. "They don't want the house. They want what's inside it." She paused, looked to her left. "They think I don't know about Vaughn. But I do. He came to the villa once. Never left fingerprints. But he left something else. Questions." "Vaughn." I said the name out loud like it might echo. "Who the hell is Vaughn?" Cut scene. I took the drive, locked it in the safe behind the study bookshelf, my backup. Then I did the one thing I promised myself I wouldn't. I called someone from the outside. Detective Roland Vance. He'd left a card at the funeral. Quiet, polite, a name from an open investigation, he'd said. I didn't ask what kind, but now I needed to. He picked up on the second ring. Charlotte Voss. I need to ask you something. Go ahead. What were you investigating when you came to my mother's funeral? Financial irregularities, trust embezzlement, tax movement through a foundation called the Torres Family Foundation. Silence. Charlotte, he said, voice lower. You need to get somewhere public. Now. I glanced out the window. Black car parked across the street. Windows tinted. No plates. A shadow in the driver's seat. You're watching me. No, he said. Someone else is. I hung up. Grabbed the flash drive. Not the backup, the decoy. Left the house fast. Cut scene. I went to a diner 3 towns over. One of those 24-hour types with plastic menus and booths that swallowed you whole. Vance met me in the back booth. He wore no badge, no jacket, just a look like he hadn't slept in days. He slid me a photo, a headshot. Vaughn. Same man from the video. You know him, he asked. I've seen him. He's not in any state system, not tax files, not corporate boards. But he owns 40% of a holding company that owns your mother's villa. I stared. No, my mother owned the deed, yes. But the land title was transferred 6 weeks before her death. Shell acquisition through a law firm in Delaware. She was in the hospital when it happened. My mouth went dry. She didn't sign that. She couldn't have. He leaned in. Charlotte, this isn't about a house anymore. This is about whoever your mother threatened to expose before she died. I felt the table vibrate. My phone buzzed. One new message. Unknown number. Stop digging. Some things should stay buried. I looked up. Vance had gone pale. He whispered, You told anyone else about the drive? No. Good. He stood, because if they know you have it. His eyes flicked to the window. Red dot. Moving. Sniper laser. Real. Get down. Glass shattered. And everything went white. Glass exploded. Screams tore through the diner. People ducked. Plates shattered. Someone knocked over a coffee pot, and it hissed on the floor like a live wire. I hit the ground hard, ears ringing. Vance dragged me by the arm, low and fast, into the kitchen. The chef stood frozen, with a cleaver in one hand and a raw steak in the other. Back door. Now Vance barked. We ran through grease-slicked tiles and out into the alley. The cold slapped me awake. Trash cans. A rusted fence. No cover. A black SUV sped past the far end. Too fast to get the plate. No time. Vance shoved me behind a dumpster. Are you hit? No. Then don't breathe so loud. I pressed my back against metal, heart pounding. I didn't think they'd move this fast, he muttered. They want the drive. They think you still have it. I said nothing. He looked at me. Tell me you didn't bring the real one. I didn't. Pause. Where is it? I told you I locked it in a safe. That's not good enough anymore. Cut scene. We regrouped in his car, parked 4 blocks away in a grocery lot. He tossed me a burner phone and cracked the window. The air smelled like old receipts and blood. Charlotte, he said quietly, who else knew about your mother's backup vault? No one. Not even me. You said she left you a message. Trust the roses. She did. What else did she say? I hesitated. She mentioned Vaughn. Said he came to the villa once and left something behind. Something like? A question. He looked at me, long and hard. Vaughn was NSA, then disappeared. He's ghosted every agency since 2019. And now he owns half the land my mom died on. Vance didn't answer. Why didn't you tell me that at the funeral? Because I wasn't here for your mother. I stared. She wasn't the target, he said. You are. Cut scene. We drove back toward the villa under cover of dusk. No headlights. No music. Just the sound of tires against cracked asphalt and the clock ticking too loudly on the dash. Vance parked 2 houses down. Walked me up on foot. You have a second exit, he asked. Through the back pantry. Leads to the greenhouse. If anything goes wrong, that's your route. We stepped inside. Nothing looked out of place, but everything felt wrong. The air smelled like burnt citrus and static. Lights were off. Curtains drawn. The kitchen clock blinked 12 o'clock like the power had been cut and reset. The cameras were still running. I checked the feeds. Someone had deleted hours of footage. From noon to 5. I turned to Vance. They've already been here. Which means they didn't find the drive. He walked toward the study. I followed. Opened the hidden shelf. The safe was gone. Not opened. Removed. Bolts ripped from the drywall. Debris on the floor. An indent where the unit used to be. Like someone had come with tools and time and purpose. I blinked. They knew exactly where to look. I stepped back, heart hammering. Who knew? Cut scene. Vance picked up a broken piece of drywall. Sniffed it. Smells like ammonia. They used chemicals. He nodded. To check for fingerprints. High grade. Military issue. He held up a tiny fiber. Polymer thread. Surveillance uniform. They sent a team. This wasn't Elliot. I staggered back. There's another player here, Charlotte. And they're more dangerous than your brother-in-law could ever be. Suddenly, the printer in the study kicked on. We both turned. A single page spat out. White. Crisp. Ink still warm. Vance grabbed it. Typed in bold font. Stop chasing shadows. She was never who you thought. What the hell? I whispered. He flipped the page over. Another line. Handwritten. You missed something. Look again at the bedroom mirror. Cut scene. We sprinted down the hallway. My old bedroom. Empty. Dust motes floating in the beam of Vance's flashlight. I stepped in front of the mirror. Nothing strange. Just my reflection. Ragged, exhausted, shaking. Then I noticed it. Tiny dots at the corner of the frame. Infrared sensors. He whispered, one-way glass. I pressed my fingers against the edge. Found a latch. The mirror swung forward like a door. Behind it, a second room. Hidden. Soundproofed. Inside, a cot. Food wrappers. A small monitor. Another camera. Someone had been living in this house. Recently. Watching. I turned slowly. My stomach dropped. On the wall behind the cot was a photo. Me. Sleeping. Taken 2 nights ago. Whoever lived here had never left. I didn't wait. I set the trap. Lights on. Cameras alive. Every sensor hot. I turned the villa into a circuit. Like a spider's web made of wires, optics, and sound. I had one goal. Make them walk into their own undoing. I stood in the kitchen, phone in hand. Vance beside me, silent, tense, wired tight like every nerve in his body. He whispered, "Everyone they touch gets hurt. Don't let history repeat." I blinked. My heart beat loud as a war drum. The first to arrive was Elliot. Sunset bleeding through the windows. He stepped onto the gravel like someone entering a crime scene, uncertain, cautious. "Charlotte," he said, voice smooth. I didn't respond. He noticed the cameras, the hall sensors, the lights that followed him like eyes. "I knew you'd come back eventually," he said. He shouldn't have said that. The villa went quiet. Too quiet. Then a second car pulled in. Black, tinted glass. No plates. No welcome. Liana stepped out. Elegant. Controlled. But when she saw the setup, she hesitated, just a fraction. I saw it. Distraction, then panic. Liana faked a cough, turned away, and slipped her hand into her coat. I reacted before a thought, camera slow motion, hand on my hip. It wasn't a weapon. It was a folder. Documents. I frowned. But it didn't matter. The confrontation was already ignited. Why are you doing this? Liana asked, voice uneven. You know why, I said. Elliot's jaw tensed. Your mother was weak, he spat. She couldn't handle the pressure. We helped her. That wasn't a defense. That was confession. You helped her. I whispered. Or you helped yourself? The air turned sharp. A siren wailed in the distance. Not close, but close enough. Then the twist came. Vance's phone buzzed. He glanced down, eyes widening. It was a message from his own department. Stand down. Cancel the operation. And underneath, Charlotte Voss is a person of interest. I stared at the text. Cold seeped into my spine. Vance looked like he'd been punched. Blink. Breath. Pulse racing. I turned to Elliot. What the hell is happening? I demanded. He raised his hands. I don't know. But Liana's eyes weren't on me. They were on Vance. That was the moment I realized this wasn't just about the house. Not anymore. It was about who controlled the narrative. The storm outside picked up. Rain pounded the roof like artillery. We were 4 in a room, buzzing with surveillance. But only one person knew we were recorded live. Me. I hit play on my phone. Footage from 2 nights ago, hidden camera in the greenhouse, where Vince, my brother from another branch of the family, was meeting someone I didn't recognize. A short man in a tailored suit. They exchanged a USB. Wordless. Transaction. That was when the power cut. Sudden darkness. Camera feed switched to backup battery. The screen blinked. Then the clip showed Vaughn's face, smiling. Slowly. Cold. Recording. And it occurred to me, they weren't just here to take the villa. They were here to control what everyone believed about it. Vance looked at me. Charlotte, if they call you a person of interest. They want to discredit me, I finished for him. They want the video. They won't get it. I reached into my pocket, pulled out the original flash drive, the one they think is still in the safe. I plugged it into my phone. My finger hovered over share. A moment of silence. A long one. Then I hit send. Straight to local press. To the DA's inbox. To every major newsroom. Cut scene. Chaos. Elliot lunged toward me. No, he shouted. Too late. The villa speakers crackled. A recorded voice. My mother's. Clear. Unedited. If anything happens to me, don't trust the paperwork. Don't trust them. They'll say I was sick. I wasn't. Elliot froze. Liana gasped. Lightning flashed. Exposed the fear on their faces. Then another sound. Police sirens very close. Very real. Not the distant echo from before. I slipped outside. Rain blasted my face. Garden roses torn up underfoot. Red and blue strobe. Vance ducked beside me, breath heavy. They're coming, he said. Not for me, I said. For them. Inside, Elliot and Liana stood cornered, like rats in a picture frame. What happened next wasn't graceful. A patrol car screeched. Officers rushed in. Commands shouted. Cuffs slapped metal wrists. Elliot's face contorted. Liana's eyes were wide, betrayal sharp as glass. A flash of lightning. Then silence. I watched them go. Handcuffed. Defeated. And then I heard it. On every broadcast, every phone notification. My mother's voice. Live. Her confession. Her warning. I breathed. Hard. Long. I thought of another phrase once whispered to me. Something like, the truth is a blade sharper than any lie. Tonight was proof. But as the officers walked them out, Elliot's eyes met mine. Not defeated. hurting, a flicker, and then a whisper that wasn't meant for me, but I heard it anyway. You have no idea what you've started. The house went quiet after they took them away. Not peaceful, not relieved, quiet like a held breath. Red and blue lights faded down the mountain road. The rain thinned to a mist. Somewhere a radio crackled and died. I stood barefoot on the back porch, mud on my jeans, blood on my knuckles that I didn't remember earning. Vance came up beside me. He didn't say anything at first. He just handed me a blanket and waited until my hand stopped shaking enough to take it. They'll try to spin it, he said finally. They always do. I know. They'll question your credibility, your motives, your mental state. I know. But the evidence holds. The recordings, the financial trail, the false filings. Your mother made it airtight. I looked back through the glass doors. The living room lights were still on. Cameras blinking red. Watching nothing now. She knew, I said, long before I did. Vance nodded. She knew the truth has a way of surviving people. He left after that. Reports to file. Arrest affidavits. Mandatory notifications. The machinery of justice grinding forward, slow but relentless. I watched his taillights disappear, then locked the door behind me. For the first time since I arrived, I was alone. Cut scene. I slept on the couch, not because I was tired, but because I didn't trust the bedroom yet. Old habits die hard, so do old fears. The house creaked all night, pipes ticking, wind testing the windows. Every sound felt like a footstep that never came. Morning arrived thin and gray. I made coffee, sat at the table my mother used to read the paper at. The mug trembled in my hands. On the counter lay the last thing from the tin box I hadn't opened yet. A small envelope. No name. Just a date. 3 days before she died. Inside was a single flash drive. I hesitated. There's a saying my mother used to repeat when she thought I wasn't listening. Some doors don't lead forward. They just explain why you couldn't go back. I plugged it in. The video loaded. My mother sat in the garden. Roses behind her. Alive. Strong. Clear-eyed. If you're watching this, she said, then they failed. She smiled. A small one. Proud. I didn't tell you everything because I wanted you free, Charlotte. Free from the weight of knowing how ugly people can be when they think they're entitled to what isn't theirs. She leaned closer to the camera. They thought I was protecting the house. I wasn't. I was protecting you. My throat closed. They underestimated you. They always did. That's their mistake. She paused, eyes flicking toward the villa behind her. This house watched them lie, watched them steal, watched them think they were invisible. And now it will watch them answer for it. The video ended. No dramatic farewell. No final warning. Just truth. Cut scene. The hearings came fast. Asset freezes. Emergency injunctions. The Torres Foundation dismantled piece by piece. Shell companies exposed. Vaughn vanished before charges could land. But his paper trail didn't. It never does. Elliot pled out. Not innocence, fear. Liana didn't. She stared straight ahead as the charges were read, jaw tight, eyes empty. People like her don't break, loudly. They fracture. They asked me to testify. I did. They asked me why I kept the cameras running instead of selling the house immediately. I said, because some places remember what happened in them. They didn't like that answer. It didn't matter. Cut scene. Months later, the villa felt different. Not empty. Cleared. I took down the hidden mirror, sealed the surveillance room, left one camera active, the one facing the garden. The roses bloomed again in spring. Not manicured. Not forced. Just alive. I opened the doors to people who needed quiet. Women with nowhere else to go. Children who flinched at sudden sounds. People who understood that safety isn't the absence of danger, it's the presence of truth. One afternoon, a little girl asked me why there were cameras. I thought for a moment. So the house remembers, I told her. And so no one has to pretend they didn't see. She nodded, like that made perfect sense. It did. There's another saying I carry with me now, something that feels earned. Justice doesn't always look like punishment. Sometimes it looks like permission to live, to heal, to stay. At sunset, I sit on the porch where my mother used to drink tea. I watch the mountains darken. I listen to the quiet. Not the old quiet, a new one. The kind that doesn't feel like someone's watching you anymore. The kind that feels like someone finally did and told the truth.